Do you recognize me, human? I saved the alien queen's daughter's life years ago. The stars shimmered in the black expanse of space as Captain Elias Cade guided the Starhawk through the outer sectors of the Zalaris system. The hum of the ship's engines was a familiar comfort to him, a rhythm he had lived by for years. Space travel was never quiet. Alerts, messages, and subtle vibrations filled the background, but there was a serenity in it, a feeling that humans alone could appreciate. Elias leaned back in his seat, his eyes scanning the holographic map projected in front of him. The Zalara system was known for its political tension and complex alliances. The Xylarian people, the dominant civilization in this region, had been cautious of humans ever since humanity's first contact with them a decade ago. Despite the caution, the Xylarians had agreed to a meeting, and Elias was to act as humanity's representative. He tapped the console, bringing up the planetary approach interface. Landing coordinates set for capital city orbit. Estimated descent in 15 minutes, the ship's AI informed him. Elias nodded, running a hand through his dark hair. There was a knot of unease in his stomach. It wasn't fear. Elias had faced hostile aliens, mercenaries, and even cosmic storms. But this was different. This was diplomacy. One wrong move could lead to an incident that might ruin humanity's standing in the sector. The descent began smoothly. The capital planet, Zalaris Prime, came into view, a glittering jewel of blue oceans, green continents, and sprawling silver cities. The Xylarians were known for their technology, their cities floating above the surface with anti-gravity fields, and their elegant architecture, shaped like flowing waves and spirals. The sight filled Elias with awe. Even after years of space travel, the beauty of a new world never failed to impress him. As the Starhawk landed on the designated platform, Elias stepped out, feeling the strange gravity of Zalaris Prime. It was slightly stronger than Earth's, making his steps heavier but steady. He adjusted his uniform and approached the waiting delegation. They were tall, slender beings with smooth, iridescent skin that shimmered in shades of silver and blue. Their eyes were larger than human eyes, deep and expressive, reflecting intelligence and careful calculation. A senior Xylarian approached, bowing slightly. "Captain Elias Cade, welcome to Zalaris Prime. The Queen awaits your arrival," the alien said in fluent common speech, the language humans used for interstellar communication. Elias nodded politely. "Thank you, I am honored." As they began walking through the city's elevated pathways, Elias noticed children playing near floating gardens and small hover vehicles gliding silently along the streets. The Xylarians were graceful, moving with a rhythm that seemed almost like a dance. Elias had always admired their discipline and elegance, yet he knew that beneath this calm exterior, there was a calculating intelligence that could make them formidable allies or dangerous enemies. Then, without warning, a small figure detached from the group of guards ahead of him. The being's eyes, a deep, glowing blue, locked on him with an intensity that froze Elias in place. She knelt abruptly on one knee and lowered her head. "Do you recognize me, human?" she whispered, her voice trembling but strong. Elias froze. The words struck him like lightning. The face, the eyes, it was her. The memory came rushing back in vivid detail. Years ago, during a routine trade mission, Elias had been on the planet Zalaris Minor, a remote satellite where the Xylarian royal family had once visited. A sudden accident had threatened the life of a young Xylarian girl, the daughter of the queen herself. Without thinking, Elias had risked his own life, navigating a collapsing structure to save her. It had been a dangerous rescue, one that could have ended tragically, yet he had succeeded. The young alien who knelt before him was that same girl. Now older, taller, and more graceful, she still carried the same delicate features, but there was a strength in her posture that she had gained over the years. Her eyes searched his, looking for recognition. Elias felt his throat tighten. I remember," he said finally, his voice low and steady. You're the queen's daughter." She nodded, her glowing eyes reflecting relief and something deeper, gratitude that transcended words. "I have never forgotten what you did," she said softly. "I would not be here today if not for you." The surrounding guards looked on, their expressions carefully neutral. Elias noticed their subtle shifts, their fingers brushing against the hilts of weapons, not in hostility but in readiness. This was their way, always alert, always cautious, especially around a human. The girl rose gracefully and motioned for him to follow. "Come with me. The queen wishes to see you." Elias followed, his mind racing. Memories of that day on Xylaris Minor played over and over, mingling with the reality of standing here on Xylaris Prime. Years had passed, and he had assumed the queen's daughter would remember him only as a stranger who had saved her life. Yet here she was, acknowledging him, bridging the gap between species with a simple phrase. "Do you recognize me, human?" The palace was a marvel of design, a massive structure that seemed to float above the city. Its spires reflected the sunlight, casting shimmering patterns on the clouds below. The doors opened silently as the young Zalarian led him inside, and Elias was immediately struck by the serene grandeur of the royal hall. Smooth, iridescent walls, polished floors that reflected the soft light, and floating lanterns created an atmosphere of calm authority. At the far end of the hall, the queen herself awaited. She was a towering figure, her presence commanding yet dignified. Her silver skin glimmered under the ambient light, and her eyes, a deep violet, fixed on Elias with a sharpness that made him straighten instinctively. "Captain Elias Cade," the queen said, her voice calm but carrying authority. "I have heard much about you." Elias bowed slightly. "Your Majesty, it is an honor to be here. I only did what any human would have done in that moment." The queen's expression softened slightly, though her eyes remained discerning. Few humans would have acted so courageously, nor with such care. "You saved my daughter's life, and in doing so you have earned the respect of my people." Elias blinked, humbled. He had never thought of himself as heroic. He had only acted on instinct, on the need to protect a life. Yet here, in the presence of an alien queen, he was being recognized not just for his actions, but for his humanity. The young Zalarian girl stepped forward. "I am glad you are here, human. I wanted to thank you personally. You reminded me then and now of what courage and kindness can accomplish. You are different from what we expected from your species." Elias smiled faintly. "Different isn't always bad. Sometimes it can be useful." The queen's eyes narrowed slightly. "Indeed. That is why I have requested your presence. There are matters at hand that require someone who can think beyond rules and tradition. Humanity is unpredictable, yes, but there is value in that unpredictability. It is something my advisors cannot ignore." Elias felt a mixture of pride and unease. Diplomacy was delicate, and unpredictability could be both a strength and a liability. He was here as a representative of humanity, yet already he sensed that the events to come would test him in ways no protocol could prepare him for. For a moment the room fell silent. Elias could hear the subtle hum of energy fields, the soft movements of the Xylarian attendants, and the faint echo of his own heartbeat. The weight of responsibility pressed on him, but he felt a spark of determination. He had faced danger before, and he had saved lives. Now he would need every ounce of courage, every lesson learned in human ingenuity to navigate the complex world of interstellar diplomacy. The young Xylarian girl spoke again, her voice cutting through the silence. "Do you remember the bridge collapse? You reached me just in time, Elias. I have never forgotten that moment. Not just because you saved me, but because you did it without hesitation, without thought for yourself. That is rare, even among your people." Elias' lips pressed together, a small smile forming. "I suppose it was just luck and training." "Perhaps," she said, her glowing eyes meeting his. "But luck and training alone do not define courage." Humans have a way of surprising us, of seeing possibilities where others see none. That is why your presence here is meaningful. The queen observed their exchange quietly, a subtle acknowledgement in her posture. Elias understood that this was more than gratitude. This was a test, a measure of humanity itself through one act of bravery and one young girl's memory. Elias straightened his shoulders. Your Majesty, I am here to serve however I can, not just for humanity but for peace and understanding between our peoples. The Queen's gaze softened, a rare gesture of approval. Very well, Captain Cade. For now, know that your actions have not been forgotten. You will have opportunities to prove your worth, not only to me but to the entire Zalarian Council. I hope you are prepared. Elias nodded. I am ready. And so, standing in the great hall of the Zalarian Palace, Elias felt the first stirrings of a journey that would test not only his courage but the very essence of humanity itself. He had saved a life once, and now, perhaps, humanity's future depended on the same qualities that had guided him that day. Courage, ingenuity, and the will to act when it mattered most. The young Zalarian girl, once a child, now a beacon of her people's hope, looked at him and smiled. And for the first time in years, Elias felt the quiet, steady assurance that he had made a difference that might echo across the stars. The next morning, the sun rose over Zalaris Prime, casting soft silver light over the floating city. Captain Elias Cade awoke in the guest quarters provided by the Zalarian Palace. The room was elegantly simple, with walls that shimmered like liquid metal and windows that offered a panoramic view of the sky and the city below. He rubbed his eyes and took a deep breath. Today would be different. He remembered the young Zalarian girl's words from the previous day. You will have opportunities to prove your worth. Elias had no idea what the queen meant, but he sensed that this test would challenge more than his courage. It would challenge his mind, his judgment, and even his humanity. A soft chime echoed through the room. Elias touched the panel beside the bed and a holographic display appeared. The queen's face materialized in the light. Captain Cade, she began, her tone calm but authoritative. You have impressed us with your past actions, but now we must understand whether humanity can be trusted as allies. The test begins today. Are you prepared? Elias straightened. I am ready, Your Majesty. Good. You will be evaluated on 3 qualities: intelligence, morality, and adaptability. Success is not measured by victory alone, but by how you approach each challenge. Failure is not permanent, but careless actions may have consequences. Before he could respond, the image dissolved, leaving him alone with a sense of anticipation. He had faced combat, dangerous explorations, and unpredictable alien behavior before, but this was a test designed by a species whose thought processes differed greatly from his own. He knew he would need to be clever, careful, and courageous. The first trial took place in the palace's simulation chamber, a vast dome filled with glowing panels, holographic obstacles, and shifting terrain. Elias stepped inside, feeling a strange pulse in the air as the chamber calibrated to his presence. Suddenly, a series of holographic threats appeared: collapsing bridges, falling debris, and simulated alien creatures that darted from the shadows. The first test was simple in theory: navigate through the environment without harming any innocent beings while reaching the exit point. The simulation was realistic, almost tactile, testing not only his reflexes but his strategic thinking. Elias moved carefully, scanning for weak points in the structures above and routes that avoided the simulated creatures. A large holographic bridge cracked under his weight. He paused, calculating the timing, then leaped to a safe platform as the bridge collapsed behind him. The simulation immediately adapted, sending more obstacles, more creatures, and unexpected environmental changes. Elias' heart raced, but his human intuition guided him. While the Zalarians relied on precise calculations and rigid patterns, Elia's unpredictability allowed him to see possibilities the simulation had not accounted for. By the time he reached the exit, he was breathing heavily, but the test was complete. The chamber doors opened, and a holographic projection of the young Xylarian girl appeared. "Well done, Captain Cade. You think beyond patterns. That is rare, even among humans. Few would have survived this test so efficiently." Elias gave a small, modest nod. "I just react to what I see. I don't follow rules blindly." "Exactly," she said. "Your adaptability is precisely why the Queen values your presence." The second trial tested morality, and it was far more subtle. Elias was led to a room filled with a complex network of consoles, each displaying scenarios involving alien societies, potential conflicts, and ethical dilemmas. The Queen's voice spoke from the chamber itself. "You must make choices that reflect not only human judgment but also universal values. Each choice will have consequences. Some options may seem logical but could harm innocence. Consider carefully." Elias observed the first scenario. A colony on a distant moon was suffering from a disease. Resources were limited. He could either send aid to save the colony, knowing it would weaken other systems, or prioritize the strategic interests of the Xylarian Empire. The consoles displayed consequences for each choice: famine, political instability, or loss of life. He paused, thinking deeply. "The colony's lives are more important than political gain," he muttered aloud. He allocated resources to the colony, knowing it might upset the larger network of systems, but trusting that compassion would guide him correctly. The next scenario involved a hostile alien faction attacking a smaller, defenseless planet. Elias could strike preemptively to prevent future attacks or negotiate and risk immediate losses. He chose negotiation, reasoning that unnecessary aggression would breed resentment and long-term danger. The chamber responded with approval. Each decision had a ripple effect, and the outcomes were measured not just by efficiency, but by empathy, foresight, and respect for life. Elias realized the test was not about being perfect. It was about being human in the truest sense, creative, compassionate, and accountable. When the simulation ended, the young Xylarian girl reappeared, her glowing eyes reflecting a mixture of admiration and curiosity. "You surprise me, human. You do not always choose the easiest path nor the safest, yet your choices show wisdom." Elias allowed himself a small smile. "I try to see the bigger picture. There's more at stake than just the immediate results." "That is why the Queen values you," she said, before vanishing again. The third and final trial was perhaps the most challenging, a test of courage under uncertainty. Elias was led to a large chamber where a holographic battlefield stretched as far as the eye could see. Simulated Xylarian soldiers, allies, and civilians were scattered across the terrain, and an enemy force of unknown design was closing in. The Queen's voice resonated in the chamber. "This trial is not about rules, but about ingenuity, quick thinking, and bravery. Protect your people, but remember, the outcome is unpredictable. Only your instincts and judgment will guide you." Elias quickly assessed the situation. The enemy was fast, adaptable, and seemingly limitless in numbers. Traditional tactics would fail. Instead, he relied on a combination of strategy and improvisation. He used the terrain to his advantage, drawing the enemy into traps and creating diversions. He coordinated with holographic allies, ensuring their safety while outmaneuvering the attackers. At one point, an entire building was about to collapse, threatening civilians. Elias didn't hesitate. He sprinted to the structure, pulling the virtual citizens to safety just before the walls crumbled. His actions were not required by the simulation, but his instinct to protect others, human or alien, guided him. Hours seemed to pass in minutes as the battle continued, each moment demanding split-second decisions and unwavering courage. Finally, Elias found a weak point in the enemy's formation, and executed a bold maneuver that caused the holographic invaders to retreat. The simulation ended with a quiet, pulsating glow filling the chamber. The young Xylarian girl appeared one final time. Her eyes were wide with admiration. "Captain Cade, you have completed the trials. Not only did you survive, but you demonstrated courage, morality, and adaptability beyond what we expected. You are exceptional." Elias exhaled, feeling a mixture of relief and pride. "Thank you. I didn't do it for recognition. I just did what I thought was right." "That is precisely why you succeeded," she said softly. "Your humanity is not measured by your victories, but by your willingness to act with wisdom, compassion, and courage." After the trials, Elias was escorted to a quiet terrace overlooking the floating gardens of the palace. The city sparkled below, and the twin moons of Xalaris Prime hung low in the sky, casting a soft glow. The young Xylarian girl stood beside him, silent for a moment. "You see, human," she said finally, "we value strength, intelligence, and skill. But above all, we value the choices you make when faced with impossible situations. That is what separates you from others. You do not simply react, you think, you care, and you act." Elias looked at her, understanding now why he had been brought here. It was not just about diplomacy or politics. The Xylarians were evaluating humanity itself through him, seeking proof that humans could rise to challenges and form bonds that transcended species. "I understand," Elias said quietly, "and I hope that my actions here can build trust, not just for me, but for humanity as a whole." The girl nodded, her eyes reflecting the starlight. "They will, and there is more to come, Captain. This is only the beginning. You have proven yourself, but soon, you may face challenges that no simulation can prepare you for. Are you ready for that?" Elias felt a familiar spark in his chest, the mix of excitement and determination that had carried him through countless dangerous missions. "I am ready," he said firmly. "Whatever comes next, I will face it." As they stood together on the terrace, the city below shimmering like a sea of light, Elias understood that his journey had just begun. The trials had revealed much about himself, about humanity, and about the possibilities of alliance and understanding between worlds. He had proven that humans could think, feel, and act in ways that inspired hope, even across the vast distances of space. The young Xylarian girl smiled once more. "Then let us see what the future holds, human. Together, we may achieve what no species could accomplish alone." And with those words, Elias felt a sense of purpose deeper than any he had known. The Queen's test was complete, but the real challenges, those that would define the future of humanity among the stars, were yet to come. The calm of Xalaris Prime was short-lived. The morning air, crisp with the scent of metallic flowers that floated in the city's gardens, carried news that would soon shake the palace. Captain Elias Cade had been enjoying a rare moment of quiet, studying the floating gardens from the terrace, when the palace's alarm system hummed to life. The young Xylarian girl, now standing beside him, stiffened instantly. "Something is wrong," she said, her glowing blue eyes reflecting concern. "The Queen is calling the council. There has been an alert from the outer sectors." Elias' hand instinctively went to the side of his uniform where his communicator was clipped. "Outer sectors. Could it be pirates, or another trade dispute?" he asked, though he already knew the answer might be far more serious. She shook her head. "No, this is different. Our sensors detect multiple unidentified warships, moving with precise coordination. They are heading toward our borders, and their technology, it is unlike anything we have faced before." The palace corridors were alive with activity as advisors and military commanders rushed through them, their long, elegant limbs carrying data pads, weapons, and communication devices. The air was tense with urgency, yet controlled. Xylarians did not panic easily. Their culture prized composure above all else. But Elias noticed the subtle tightening of shoulders, the quickened pace, and the slight flicker of worry in their eyes. Even the most disciplined beings felt the weight of this threat. He followed the young Zalarian to the council chamber, a massive room with a high domed ceiling that shimmered like liquid crystal. Holographic maps of the galaxy rotated above the center table, displaying the movement of fleets, planets, and potential conflict zones. The queen stood at the head of the chamber, her expression unreadable yet commanding. "Captain Cade," she said, her voice calm but carrying authority, "this is not a simple incursion. The Vorath Empire approaches, and they show no interest in diplomacy. They are known for aggression, cunning strategy, and relentless pursuit of conquest." Elias leaned forward, studying the maps. The Vorath Empire was notorious throughout the outer systems. They had attacked neighboring colonies, using advanced cloaking technology, fast strike teams, and unconventional tactics that had often defeated far larger fleets. Humans had little direct experience with them, but from reports, their reputation was enough to send shivers down the spine of even the bravest commanders. "What is their fleet size?" Elias asked, keeping his voice steady. "Too large for our current defenses," one advisor answered. "But that is only part of the problem. Their tactics are unpredictable. They do not follow patterns or protocols. Standard strategies may fail." Elias' mind raced. He had faced overwhelming odds before in boarding missions and planetary rescue operations, but a fleet of this size was another challenge entirely. Yet he felt something stir inside him, a spark of determination. He was not just a visitor here, he had proven his worth. Perhaps now his human unpredictability would be an advantage. The young Zalarian girl stepped closer. "Your Majesty," she said, "I suggest we consider Captain Cade's insights. His unique approach could give us an edge. Humans do not always follow logic in the ways we understand, but they can see solutions where we cannot." The Queen's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. "Very well, Captain Cade, we will grant you the opportunity to present a plan. Know that this is not a test simulation. Lives, cities, and our empire's future may depend on your decisions." Elias nodded, feeling the gravity of the situation press on him. "Thank you, Your Majesty. I will do my best." For the next several hours, Elias reviewed intelligence reports, fleet logs, and tactical analyses. He spoke with the Zalarian commanders, learning their strengths and limitations. Unlike humans, the Zalarians relied heavily on formalized strategies, predictable formations, and careful coordination. They were brilliant, precise, and disciplined, but they lacked one thing humans excelled at: improvisation. Elias formulated a plan that combined both Zalarian technology and human unpredictability. Instead of a direct confrontation with the Vorath fleet, he proposed a mobile strike team, small, fast, and adaptive, capable of striking key enemy vessels, disrupting communications, and creating confusion. It was risky, but the alternative, waiting for the enemy to strike, was far more dangerous. The Queen observed silently as he explained his strategy. "Your approach relies on speed, deception, and split-second decisions," she noted. "It is unconventional." "Unconventional, yes," Elias admitted. "But sometimes that is the only way to survive. The Vorath Empire expects order and predictability. If we act unpredictably, we can turn their strength against them." The council murmured among themselves. Some advisors frowned, clearly uncomfortable with the idea. Others nodded, recognizing the logic in Elias' reasoning. The young Zalarian girl smiled subtly, a spark of admiration in her eyes. "I trust him, Mother," she said softly. "Humans have a way of seeing paths we cannot imagine." The Queen's gaze lingered on Elias. "Very well, we will approve your plan. You will lead a select team of human and Zalarian forces. Their lives will depend on your choices." Elias felt the weight of responsibility settle over him. It was one thing to face simulated threats in a chamber. It was another to lead beings into battle where failure meant real loss. But the spark in his chest burned brighter than fear. He had never backed down from danger, and he would not start now. The following hours were a flurry of preparation. Elias oversaw the selection of personnel, combining human soldiers trained in improvisation with Xylarian experts familiar with their technology. He led drills, briefings, and simulations to ensure everyone understood the plan. Communication was a challenge, as humans and Xylarians thought differently, processed information differently, and reacted differently under stress. Elias worked tirelessly to bridge the gap, ensuring unity among the team. As the team prepared to depart, the young Xylarian girl approached him once more. "Captain Cade," she said, her voice steady, "I know you carry the weight of this mission. But remember, your strength is not just in tactics. It is in your ability to inspire others, to make them believe that even in the face of danger they can survive and succeed. Trust your instincts." Elias smiled faintly. "I will. And I will make sure everyone comes back safely if I can." Her eyes glimmered. "I believe you will." The Starhawk, now carrying both human and Xylarian forces, launched from Xylaris Prime under the twin moon's glow. The fleet moved with silent precision, heading toward the predicted path of the Vorath forces. Sensors detected the enemy ships in the distance, dark, sleek, and menacing. Their numbers were daunting, and their movements were calculated yet unpredictable. Elias took a deep breath and tapped the console. "All units prepare for engagement. Remember the plan: mobility, deception, and coordination. Stick to your instincts but trust each other. We succeed together or we fail together." The crew responded with nods and affirmations. Elias knew fear was present in every chest, human or Xylarian, yet he also sensed determination. They trusted him just as he trusted them. As the distance closed, the first contact was sudden. Vorath scouts appeared from stealth positions, firing plasma pulses toward the fleet. Elias' team reacted quickly, executing maneuvers he had devised, splitting formations, using holographic decoys, and striking key targets with surgical precision. The battle was chaotic, loud in the simulation and silent in space, a dance of light, motion, and strategy. The Vorath forces were skilled, but Elias' unpredictable approach began to frustrate their patterns. Where the enemy expected direct confrontation, his team had already moved to flank, to mislead, and to disrupt. For hours the battle raged, and Elias remained calm, his mind calculating each move, each consequence. He gave orders with clarity, adapted when surprises occurred, and protected the vulnerable when threats emerged. It was exhausting, but his human intuition and creativity proved invaluable. At one critical moment, the enemy targeted a civilian transport vessel. Without hesitation, Elias piloted a strike craft into the path of destruction, intercepting the attacks and diverting them safely. The crew cheered silently, though the danger was far from over. By nightfall, the battle had shifted. The Vorath fleet, confused and demoralized by the unexpected tactics, began to retreat. The Xylarian fleet, though battered, remained intact. The victory was not total, but it was decisive enough to protect Xylaris Prime and the surrounding systems. Elias stood on the bridge of the Starhawk, watching the enemy withdraw into the stars. Sweat and fatigue lined his face, but a quiet pride settled over him. Humans, in their unpredictability and courage, had made a difference. They had turned the tide where strict discipline alone might have failed. The young Xylarian girl joined him on the bridge. "You have done more than I imagined, human. Your people, they are remarkable. You faced fear, danger, and uncertainty, and yet you prevailed." Elias nodded. "It was not just me. Everyone played their part. Humans and Xylarians together, we were stronger because we trusted each other." She smiled, her eyes reflecting the stars. "Perhaps this is only the beginning. Perhaps together we can face whatever the universe throws at us." And as the twin moons of Xylaris Prime cast their glow over the fleet, Elias realized that humanity's place among the stars was not just about strength or technology. It was about courage, ingenuity, and the willingness to act when it mattered most. The Voreth threat had been contained, but the adventure, and the proof of humanity's potential, was far from over. The aftermath of the first engagement with the Voreth Empire had left Zalaris Prime in a tense but cautious state of relief. Captain Elias Cade and his joint Human-Zalarian strike team had successfully protected the capital and surrounding systems, but intelligence reports indicated that the Voreth would regroup. Their retreat was only temporary, and they would return stronger, more organized, and with new strategies. Elias knew that waiting for the next attack was not an option. The Zalarian fleet, though powerful, was built for structured combat and could be outmaneuvered by the Voreth's unpredictable tactics. If humanity and Zalarians were to survive, they would have to act preemptively. The Queen summoned Elias to the royal palace once more. He stepped into the gleaming halls, the shimmering walls reflecting the soft light of the floating gardens outside. The young Zalarian girl, now standing at the entrance, smiled faintly. "Captain Cade," she said softly, "the Queen has been discussing your plan with her advisors. They are skeptical, but they trust your instincts." Elias inclined his head. "I understand. Skepticism is natural, but we must act before they attack again." The Queen's presence was commanding as always. "Captain Cade, you have already proven your courage and ingenuity. Now we require a solution that can protect our people and weaken the Voreth forces before they can strike again. We cannot risk waiting." Elias took a deep breath. "Your Majesty, I propose a coordinated counterattack, but it will not be conventional. We will divide the fleet into small, fast-moving units, combining Zalarian firepower with human unpredictability. We strike where the enemy least expects, disrupt their communications, and force them into confusion. We cannot defeat them head-on yet, but we can control the battlefield by controlling their perceptions." The Queen regarded him silently for a moment. Then she nodded. "Very well. You will lead this operation. Choose your team, make your plan, and execute it. Failure is not an option." For the next several hours, Elias worked tirelessly with the Zalarian commanders, mapping enemy positions and analyzing past attacks. He combined human improvisation techniques with Zalarian strategic logic. Where the Zalarians relied on precise formations and predictable maneuvers, Elias proposed adaptive strategies, surprise diversions, and creative use of the environment. "Think like the enemy will not expect you," he said to his team. "They are skilled, but they are predictable in their unpredictability. Use that against them." The strike team assembled in the hangar bay, a mix of human soldiers, Zalarian pilots, and tactical analysts. Each member was briefed on their roles, their objectives, and the risks. Elias emphasized trust and coordination, knowing that uncertainty would be the true enemy. As the team prepared to launch, the young Zalarian girl approached him. "Captain, the people believe in you," she said. "Even I trust that you can lead us through this. Don't let them down." Elias smiled, a mixture of determination and humility in his expression. "I won't, not as long as we work together." The fleet launched under the silver glow of Zalaris Prime's twin moons. Small strike units, nimble and heavily armed, scattered across the sector, each following Elias' carefully crafted plan. Sensors detected Voreth ships moving into position, unaware that the Zalarian fleet had already begun its preemptive maneuvers. The first phase was simple in appearance but complex in execution. Human pilots led feints, drawing enemy attention to decoy positions, while Zalarian units prepared ambushes from concealed coordinates. The Voreth forces, confident in their technological superiority, pursued what they thought were weak targets, only to be met with precise strikes from hidden units. Elias' heart raced as he monitored the battle from the command deck. Every move mattered, and every decision had consequences. He adjusted tactics in real time, issuing commands to units as new threats emerged. Human intuition, combined with Zalarian calculation, created a fluid, adaptive force that the enemy had never encountered. At one critical moment, a Vorath flagship broke through a defensive perimeter, heading straight for a civilian transport fleet. Elias reacted immediately, directing a small squad of human pilots to intercept. Using calculated risks and daring maneuvers, they engaged the flagship, drawing its fire and protecting the vulnerable vessels. "Captain, they're advancing too fast," shouted Lieutenant Aaron, a young Xylarian pilot. "Use the gravity wells," Elias barked, pointing at the sensor map. "Draw them into the system's asteroid belt. Their size will work against them." The squad executed the plan flawlessly. The massive enemy ship, unable to maneuver quickly, became an easy target for coordinated strikes. Explosions lit up the void as the flagship faltered, forcing surrounding vessels to retreat. The battle continued for hours. Each phase tested human and Xylarian abilities to their limits. Elias relied on instinct and improvisation, often making decisions that seemed risky but proved decisive. The Vorath forces, though numerous and technologically advanced, were increasingly disoriented. Every unexpected maneuver disrupted their strategy, and their once coordinated fleet began to fracture. Elias noticed a group of Vorath ships attempting a flanking maneuver toward the Xylarian capital. He quickly devised a counterplan. Using small, agile human strike crafts to lure the ships into narrow asteroid canyons, he created choke points where the larger enemy vessels could not maneuver. Xylarian artillery units, hidden in orbit, unleashed precise strikes, disabling multiple enemy ships at once. The Queen monitored the battle from the palace, observing Elias' tactics in real time. She was impressed, not only by his skill but by the courage he inspired in both humans and Xylarians. Where rigid strategy might have failed, Elias' unpredictability and resourcefulness turned the tide. Mid-battle, the young Xylarian girl contacted him via secure channel. "Captain Cade, a squadron of Vorath reinforcements is approaching from the southern sector. They could overwhelm our current position." Elias' mind raced. "Divert them into the plasma fields near the moon," he instructed. "Use the energy bursts to scatter their formation. Human and Xylarian pilots follow my lead. Stick to the plan but adapt as necessary." The maneuver was daring, requiring precise timing and perfect coordination. Human pilots led the enemy into the fields, where plasma discharges disabled shields and caused confusion. Xylarian units struck swiftly, exploiting weaknesses created by the unexpected environment. Within minutes, the reinforcements were neutralized. The fleet's morale soared. Human ingenuity had turned what could have been disaster into triumph. Every member of the team recognized that success depended not just on power, but on creativity, adaptability, and courage, the very traits that defined humanity. By the time the last of the Vorath forces retreated, Xylaris Prime was safe. Damage had occurred, but it was minor compared to the potential devastation. The Queen's advisors gathered to assess the results, astonished by the effectiveness of the unconventional tactics. The young Xylarian girl appeared beside Elias once more. "You have exceeded all expectations, human. Your people, your thinking, it has saved countless lives today." Elias shook his head modestly. "It wasn't just me. We worked together. Humans and Xylarians side by side, that's why we succeeded," she smiled. "Perhaps this is the beginning of something greater. The universe is vast and threats are endless, but together we may face them all." Elias looked out over the floating city, the twin moons casting silver light across the palace and gardens. He felt a deep sense of fulfillment. Humans had proven their worth not only through courage but through ingenuity and the willingness to act when others might hesitate. The Queen entered the command chamber, her expression composed but warm. "Captain Cade, you have demonstrated what I have long hoped for. Humanity possesses qualities that extend beyond strength or technology. Courage, wisdom, and creativity. These are the gifts you bring to our alliance. Today you have ensured the safety of my people and strengthened the bonds between our worlds." Elias bowed slightly. "Thank you, Your Majesty. I only did what I believed was right." "Indeed," she said. "And for that you will be remembered, not just as a human, but as a protector, a strategist, and a friend of the Zalarian people." The young Zalarian girl placed a hand on his shoulder. "Elias, you have earned our trust and respect. Today proves that humans are more than allies, you are equals. We will face the future together." Elias smiled faintly, a quiet warmth filling him. The battles would continue, the universe remained unpredictable, but in that moment he knew something profound. Humans, through courage, ingenuity, and heart, could shine brightly even among the stars. And as the twin moons set behind the floating city, Elias Cade prepared for the next chapter of their journey. Humanity had proven itself not only capable but remarkable. And the universe, vast and full of challenges, awaited the brilliance of human ingenuity and the strength of interstellar friendship. The stars above Zalaris Prime shone brighter than ever, reflecting the renewed hope of a civilization that had faced the shadow of war. Captain Elias Cade stood on the palace terrace, looking out over the city. Fires of victory had long been extinguished, replaced by soft lights in the floating gardens and the bustling streets below. The aftermath of the battle against the Voreth Empire had left the city intact, the people alive, and the bonds between species stronger than ever. The young Zalarian girl, now standing tall and composed, joined him. "Elias," she said softly, her eyes glowing faintly in the evening light, "you've changed more than our immediate circumstances. You've changed how my people see humanity. They see courage, intelligence, and compassion in your actions. They see hope." Elias shook his head modestly. "I didn't do this for recognition. I just did what any human would do, protect others and act when it mattered." She smiled, but her eyes were serious. "Few humans would have acted as you did. That is why you are remarkable. That is why we remember you." The Queen had requested a special audience in the main hall, a room large enough to accommodate the royal family, the advisors, and representatives of human and Zalarian forces. Elias entered, walking carefully on the polished floor that reflected the soft ambient light. The hall was alive with Zalarians, tall, elegant beings whose expressions carried admiration, relief, and cautious respect. The Queen stood at the head of the hall, her silver skin shimmering subtly. She gestured for Elias to approach. "Captain Cade," she said, her voice calm yet filled with authority, "you have done what many thought impossible. Not through superior numbers, nor through raw power, but through ingenuity, courage, and collaboration. You have shown that humanity is not merely a species of survival, but a species capable of greatness." Elias bowed slightly. "Your Majesty, I only acted as I believed was right. Humans are resourceful, yes, but it was the trust and courage of your people that made the success possible." The Queen's eyes softened. "And that trust has been earned because of your actions. Today, we celebrate not just victory but the potential for a lasting alliance. Humanity and Zalarians have proven that together, we can achieve what neither could accomplish alone." A murmur of agreement swept through the hall. The young Zalarian girl stepped forward, her voice carrying clearly across the room. "Captain Cade, I cannot express how much gratitude I feel. Years ago, you saved my life. Today, you saved my people and proved that humans are more than allies, they are equals." Elias felt a warmth in his chest. He remembered the day he had risked his life to save her as a child, the fear, the uncertainty, the determination that had guided him. And now, years later, that single act had grown into something far larger than he could have imagined. It had built bridges across species, across worlds, and across fear itself. A celebration was organized in the floating gardens of the palace. Holographic lights shimmered like stars above, reflecting in the gentle waters below. Humans and Xylarians mingled, sharing stories, technology, and laughter. For the first time, the citizens of Xylaris Prime saw humans not as strangers, but as protectors and friends. Elias moved through the crowd, listening, observing, and sharing moments of camaraderie. A young Xylarian engineer approached him, her eyes wide with excitement. "Captain, your maneuvers in the asteroid fields, they were brilliant. I never imagined such an approach. How did you come up with it?" Elias chuckled softly. "Sometimes you have to imagine the problem from a different angle. Humans often rely on intuition, not just rules. It's not perfect, but it works when you adapt quickly." The engineer nodded, clearly inspired. "I hope we can work together more in the future. There's so much we could learn from each other." And that, Elias realized, was the true victory, not the battles, not the strategies, but the seeds of cooperation and understanding that would grow far beyond this moment. As the evening progressed, the young Xylarian girl approached him again. "Elias," she said quietly, "I have been thinking. Your people have qualities we admire, bravery, creativity, and compassion. But it is more than that. You act not for glory or reward, but because it is right. That is rare in any species." Elias looked at her, a gentle smile forming. "It's what we hope for in ourselves. It's what guides us when choices are difficult. Sometimes it's the only thing that matters." She nodded, her eyes glowing faintly in the soft light. "I am proud to call you a friend, and perhaps one day others will see humans the way I do, as partners, equals, and allies." Elias felt a quiet pride. It wasn't recognition he sought, but the understanding that his actions had meaning, that humanity's qualities could inspire trust and hope across the stars. The next morning, the Queen held a council meeting to formalize the alliance between humans and Xylarians. Elias attended as the official human representative. Delegates from both species gathered, exchanging plans for trade, defense, and cultural exchange. Discussions ranged from fleet coordination to joint research initiatives, each topic a step toward a unified future. The Queen addressed the assembly. "Today, we honor not only Captain Elias Cade but the spirit he represents, courage, ingenuity, and the willingness to act in the face of danger. Humanity has shown that it is a species capable of collaboration, leadership, and wisdom. Let this alliance be a foundation for peace, growth, and exploration." Applause echoed through the chamber. Elias felt a weight lift from his shoulders. Years of missions, risks, and uncertainty had led to this moment. Humanity had earned its place among the stars, not through force, but through qualities that transcended species. Later, in a private moment, the young Xylarian girl led Elias to a quiet overlook. Below, the city glowed softly, its floating gardens serene after the tumult of war. "Elias," she said, "I've watched you, learned from you, and I've come to understand why you act as you do. You have shown us that courage is not just strength, that wisdom is not just calculation, and that humanity has a resilience we cannot fully predict. I hope one day humans and Xylarians can face the universe together as equals." Elias nodded. "That is the hope. I never expected to have such an impact when I saved you all those years ago, but now I see it clearly. Small acts can grow into something larger. Choices matter, and people, human or Xylarian, can make a difference," she smiled. "And you have proven that. Now the future is ours to shape, together." As days turned into weeks, the alliance between humans and Xylarians grew stronger. Joint patrols of space, shared research initiatives, and cultural exchanges became routine. Elias continued his role as ambassador and strategist, using his unique perspective to mediate between species, solve problems, and plan for potential threats. Stories of the battles against the Voreth Empire spread across the system, inspiring hope in other civilizations. Humans were no longer seen as outsiders. They were symbols of courage and ingenuity. Children, human and Xylarian alike, would tell tales of Captain Elias Cade, the human who had saved the Xylarian princess, and led their combined forces to victory. One evening, standing once again on the terrace of the palace, Elias watched the twin moons rise over the horizon. The city below was alive, peaceful, and vibrant. He reflected on his journey, from a single act of bravery to the leadership of a fleet, from saving a young girl to earning the trust of an entire civilization. The young Xylarian girl joined him. "Do you see, Elias? Your humanity has made all of this possible. You saved me once, and now you have saved so much more. You have shown that even one person's actions can echo across worlds." Elias smiled, feeling the quiet strength of fulfillment. "I only did what I had to. But seeing the results, it's more than I could have imagined. Perhaps this is the true meaning of what we do. Our actions ripple beyond ourselves." She nodded, her eyes shining. "And the ripples will continue, human. Together we will face whatever the universe brings, and together we will succeed." The queen approached, her regal presence serene. "Captain Cade," she said, "humanity has earned a place in Xylarian history. You have proven that courage, ingenuity, and compassion are not limited by species. They are universal qualities. Today, we honor not just you, but humanity itself." Elias bowed, humbled. "Thank you, Your Majesty. I am honored to represent my people and to stand as a partner with yours. We will continue to learn from each other and grow together." The celebration that followed was grand, yet filled with genuine warmth. Humans and Xylarians danced, shared stories, and forged bonds that would last for generations. Children laughed together in the gardens, scientists exchanged ideas, and soldiers honored the courage of those who had fought to protect the future. Elias watched, feeling a deep sense of peace. The battles, the challenges, the uncertainty, they had all led to this moment. Humanity had proven itself among the stars, not through force alone, but through heart, courage, and the willingness to act when it mattered most. As the twin moons cast their silver glow over the floating city, Elias realized that this was not the end. The universe was vast, full of unknown threats and challenges, but with courage, ingenuity, and the bonds of friendship, humanity could face whatever came next. And in that moment, surrounded by allies, friends, and the people he had helped protect, Captain Elias Cade knew one undeniable truth. Humans, when united in purpose and heart, could shine brighter than any star. The story of one man, one choice, and one human spirit had grown into a legacy that would endure across the stars. And that legacy, of courage, ingenuity, and hope, was only just beginning.